In today's episode, we're exploring 5 reckless people who got mauled by dangerous animals. From a ranch hand who trusted a cougar to a construction worker who underestimated a mother bear. Let's begin with the first story, where one man's routine became his final mistake. It was August 14th, 2015, and the golden evening light stretched across the sprawling Montana ranch as Blake Morrison made his final rounds of the day. The 28-year-old ranch hand had been working for wealthy landowner Richard Blackwood for nearly 2 years, caring for an unusual collection of exotic animals that the businessman kept under questionable permits. The remote property, nestled in the Bitterroot Valley, housed everything from zebras to a magnificent mountain cougar that had become Blake's favorite responsibility. Blake had grown up on his family's cattle ranch in eastern Montana, where handling unpredictable livestock was simply part of daily life. His natural confidence around animals had impressed Blackwood during the hiring process, and Blake had quickly established himself as the most reliable caretaker on the property. The exotic animals seemed to respond well to his calm demeanor and consistent routine, particularly the cougar, which had never shown any signs of aggression during their daily interactions. The mountain cougar, a 4-year-old male named Caesar, had been acquired through permits that state wildlife officials later discovered were improperly obtained. Blake had been feeding Caesar twice daily for 18 months, always following the same routine of approaching the enclosure with meat portions and fresh water. The big cat appeared completely docile during these interactions, often lying peacefully near the fence while Blake worked just feet away. The ranch's safety practices had become increasingly negligent over time, with Blackwood cutting costs by eliminating proper supervision and safety protocols. Blake often worked alone during evening shifts, a practice that violated basic guidelines for handling dangerous exotic animals. The cougar's enclosure had been constructed using standard chain-link fencing that had deteriorated over the years, with several sections showing damage from weather and the animal's natural behaviors. Mountain cougars, also known as pumas or mountain lions, are North America's second-largest wild cat species, with adult males weighing between 115 and 220 pounds. These solitary predators possess incredible strength and agility, capable of leaping 40 feet horizontally and 15 feet vertically. Despite their sometimes docile appearance in captivity, cougars retain all their natural hunting instincts and can attack with lightning speed when triggered by sudden movements or perceived threats. As Blake approached Caesar's enclosure that evening, he noticed the cougar lying unusually close to the damaged section of chain-link fence, his golden coat catching the last rays of sunlight. The big cat appeared completely relaxed, his breathing slow and steady as he rested in what Blake interpreted as peaceful contentment. Blake had been exchanging text messages with his sister Sarah throughout the day, sharing photos of his work with the exotic animals, and she had specifically asked to see the famous cougar she'd heard so much about. Blake pulled out his phone and opened the camera app, thinking this would be the perfect opportunity to capture Caesar in his most photogenic pose. The cougar remained motionless as Blake positioned himself against the fence, angling his phone to include both himself and the magnificent animal in the frame. What Blake failed to notice was Caesar's subtle tail flick and the way the cougar's ears had flattened slightly against his skull, micro signals that experienced handlers would have recognized as signs of building tension. The attack came as Blake leaned against the damaged section of enclosure fencing to get the perfect angle for his selfie. Caesar's predatory instincts activated when Blake's face came within striking distance of the compromised barrier. The big cat's massive paw shot through the enlarged gap in the chain link, his razor-sharp claws hooking into Blake's clothing and flesh as he pulled Blake's head toward the fence. The damaged fencing gave way under the pressure, creating a larger opening that allowed Caesar to clamp his powerful jaws down on Blake's neck and head through the compromised barrier. The cougar's 4-inch canine teeth punctured through vital structures while his crushing bite applied tremendous pressure to Blake's cervical vertebrae. Blake's phone clattered to the ground as Caesar's bite caused catastrophic neck trauma and massive blood loss. The cougar maintained his grip for several seconds before releasing Blake and retreating to the far side of his enclosure. Blake collapsed against the damaged fence as severe hemorrhaging overwhelmed his system, his movements gradually weakening as shock and blood loss took their toll. The initial attack had lasted only moments, but the catastrophic neck trauma caused rapid blood loss that proved fatal. Within minutes, Blake's body went limp against the chain-link barrier, the evening silence returning to the ranch broken only by the distant sound of cattle moving in nearby pastures. Richard Blackwood discovered Blake's body the following morning during his routine property inspection, immediately calling emergency services and wildlife authorities to report the incident. The investigation revealed multiple safety violations and improper permitting that had created the dangerous conditions leading to Blake's death. Caesar was euthanized following the attack, as required by state state protocols for exotic animals involved in fatal incidents. The investigation led to criminal charges against Blackwood for maintaining dangerous animals without proper permits and safety measures. Blake's death became a tragic reminder that wild animals, regardless of their apparent docility, retain their natural predatory instincts that can activate without warning. His family established a scholarship fund for aspiring veterinarians, ensuring that Blake's passion for animal care would continue helping others pursue similar careers. Yet big cats weren't the only animals that could turn deadly when humans let their guard down. In the warm waters of the Gulf Coast, an experienced fisherman's overconfidence would prove fatal when he underestimated the resilience of one of the ocean's most dangerous predators. It was June 22, 2016, and the calm waters of Galveston Bay reflected the late afternoon sun as charter boat captain Miguel Santos prepared to clean his most impressive catch of the day. The 34-year-old fisherman had been working these Texas waters for over 12 years, building a reputation among clients for his fearless approach to handling dangerous marine life. His boat was moored in a quiet cove where Miguel often processed his catches away from the busy marina traffic. Miguel had started his fishing career as a teenager working on his uncle's shrimp boat, gradually learning every aspect of Gulf Coast fishing before saving enough money to purchase his own charter vessel. His clients appreciated his extensive knowledge of local fish species and his willingness to pursue the larger, more dangerous catches that other captains avoided. The day's charter had been particularly successful, with Miguel landing a 6-foot bull shark that had provided his clients with an exciting fight and plenty of photo opportunities. After returning his clients to shore, Miguel had decided to keep the shark for processing the whole animal, planning to use the meat himself rather than selling it to local fish markets. He had handled dozens of similar sharks over the years, and considered himself an expert on their behavior patterns. Bull sharks are among the most dangerous shark species in the world, known for their aggressive nature and ability to survive in both saltwater and freshwater environments. Adult bulls can reach lengths of 11 feet and weights exceeding 500 pounds, with incredibly powerful jaws containing rows of triangular serrated teeth designed for tearing flesh. These sharks possess remarkable resilience and can remain dangerous for extended periods even when removed from water. Miguel had been cleaning fish on his boat's stern platform when he decided to tackle the bull shark, which had been lying on the deck for only a few minutes since being hauled aboard. The shark showed minimal signs of movement as Miguel approached with his filleting knife, its gills pumping slowly and its eyes still responsive to light. As Miguel positioned himself beside the shark for a quick selfie to document his impressive catch, he placed his left hand on the animal's head while holding his phone with his right hand. The shark appeared nearly motionless as Miguel adjusted his angle to capture both himself and the massive predator in the frame. The bull shark's sudden reflex response caught Miguel completely off guard as the animal's primitive nervous system triggered an involuntary defensive reaction. The shark's massive jaws snapped shut with tremendous force, its razor-sharp teeth creating severe lacerations across Miguel's wrist and forearm while puncturing major arteries. Miguel's scream of pain and shock echoed across the empty bay as the shark immediately released its grip. Miguel's panicked reaction to the severe bite wound caused him to lose his balance on the wet deck, and he tumbled backward over the boat's edge into the warm Gulf waters. The blood streaming from his mangled arm immediately began attracting marine predators in the area, while his weakened condition from arterial bleeding made swimming back to his boat increasingly difficult. Miguel struggled in the water for several minutes as blood loss began affecting his strength and coordination. The scent of blood in the water gradually attracted a large bull shark that had been following the boat's fish cleaning activities. As Miguel's movements became weaker and more erratic, the massive predator approached with the confidence that characterized his species when investigating potential prey. The attacking shark struck Miguel with devastating force, its powerful jaws inflicting fatal wounds that ended his struggles within seconds. Miguel's body disappeared beneath the surface of Galveston Bay as the predator dragged him into deeper water. Miguel's wife reported him missing the following morning when he failed to return home, but rough weather conditions delayed the Coast Guard search until late afternoon. The investigation revealed evidence of shark attack and determined that Miguel had likely fallen overboard while cleaning his catch. His boat was found anchored in the cove with the partially processed bull shark still on deck. The incident prompted renewed discussions about solo fishing safety and the dangers of handling large predatory fish without proper assistance. Miguel's death became a sobering reminder that marine predators can remain dangerous even when they appear incapacitated. But ocean predators weren't the only animals that could prove deadly to overconfident professionals. In the remote wilderness of Montana, a park maintenance worker's familiarity with dangerous wildlife would lead him to make a fatal miscalculation about territorial boundaries. It was September 8, 2014, and the crisp mountain air carried the scent of pine and approaching autumn as Derek Hoffman loaded his tools for another day of trail maintenance in Glacier National Park's backcountry. The 41-year-old maintenance worker had been employed by the National Park Service for 8 years, during which time he had encountered grizzly bears on dozens of occasions without incident. Derek's colleagues often joked that he was more comfortable around bears than most tourists were around squirrels. Derek had grown up in northwestern Montana, where encounters with large wildlife were simply part of daily life. His extensive experience in bear country had taught him to recognize signs of bear activity and to respond appropriately when encounters occurred. Park supervisors had been forced to allow solo work assignments due to severe budget cuts and understaffing, despite policies that recommended buddy systems in high-risk areas. The morning's assignment involved repairing a damaged trail marker approximately 3 miles from the nearest road, in an area known for heavy grizzly activity during the fall feeding season. Derek had hiked the trail countless times and was familiar with the local bear population's seasonal patterns and preferred feeding areas throughout this section of the park. Grizzly bears are among North America's most powerful predators, with adult males weighing up to 800 pounds and possessing incredible strength and speed. These massive omnivores can run up to 35 miles per hour and are capable of crushing a bowling ball with their jaws, which can exert over 1,200 pounds of pressure per square inch. Grizzlies are particularly dangerous during fall months when they enter hyperphagia, a feeding frenzy designed to build fat reserves for winter hibernation. As Derek worked on replacing the damaged trail sign, he was focused on his repair work when he heard rustling sounds in the dense vegetation nearby. The thick understory of huckleberry bushes and young pine trees limited visibility to just a few yards in any direction, creating perfect conditions for surprise encounters with wildlife. Derek's fatal mistake came when he decided to investigate the source of the noise rather than following protocol to make noise and slowly retreat from the area. His curiosity about what might be feeding in the berry bushes overcame his professional training, and he quietly moved through the dense vegetation to get a better view. The thick brush concealed his approach until he suddenly found himself within 15 feet of a massive grizzly bear. The grizzly's reaction was immediate and violent when Derek's sudden appearance startled the feeding bear. The massive animal's head snapped up from the berry bushes, his small eyes focusing instantly on the human intruder who had appeared without warning. The bear's ears flattened against his skull as he dropped to all fours and charged with explosive speed, covering the short distance in less than 2 seconds. Derek attempted to run, but immediately tripped over his scattered tools, falling heavily to the forest floor as 600 pounds of enraged grizzly bore down on him. The bear's massive paws struck Derek's back and shoulders with tremendous force, driving him face first into the rocky ground, while razor-sharp claws raked across his spine and ribs. The grizzly delivered several powerful swipes to Derek's torso and head, using his tremendous weight to pin Derek against the ground. The bear's defensive attack lasted approximately 12 seconds as his territorial instincts drove him to neutralize the perceived threat. The grizzly's powerful strikes caused massive blunt trauma to Derek's chest and skull, while his claws opened deep wounds that resulted in severe internal injuries. Derek's movements ceased quickly as the combination of trauma overwhelmed his system, and the grizzly immediately disengaged once Derek stopped struggling. After ensuring the threat was eliminated, the grizzly retreated to resume his interrupted feeding, leaving Derek's lifeless body among the scattered trail maintenance tools. Derek died from a combination of blunt force trauma, internal injuries, and secondary bleeding caused by the bear's defensive assault. Derek's body was discovered 2 days later by a hiking party who immediately contacted park rangers via emergency radio. The investigation revealed that Derek had approached well within the danger zone that park protocols required employees to maintain around feeding bears. The responsible grizzly was tracked but not destroyed, as wildlife officials determined the bear had been defending his natural feeding territory. The incident prompted immediate reviews of solo work policies in bear country, with new regulations requiring radio check-ins and buddy system protocols for remote maintenance activities. Derek's death became a tragic reminder that even experienced professionals can fall victim to overconfidence when dealing with unpredictable wildlife. However, wild bears weren't the only animals that could turn deadly when humans crossed established boundaries. In Ohio, a young man's desire to impress would lead him into the territory of one of Africa's most dangerous predators, kept far from its natural home. It was March 17, 2017, and the late afternoon sun filtered through the trees surrounding the Rodriguez family's private exotic animal facility in rural Ohio. As Tyler Rodriguez arrived with his girlfriend for what he planned to be an impressive behind-the-scenes tour. The 22-year-old college student had grown up around his father's collection of rescued big cats, helping with basic care duties during summer breaks, and developing what he believed was an intimate understanding of their behavior patterns. Tyler's girlfriend, Jessica, had been dating him for 6 months but had never visited the facility due to insurance restrictions on public access. Tyler's father, Dr. Michael Rodriguez, had operated the small facility for 15 years, providing sanctuary for big cats rescued from failed roadside zoos and private owners who could no longer care for them properly. The facility housed 12 animals, including tigers, leopards, and a magnificent African lion named Simba, who had been rescued from a bankrupt circus 3 years earlier. Tyler had been involved in Simba's care since the lion's arrival and believed he had developed a special bond with the powerful predator. The facility operated under strict safety protocols that prohibited anyone except trained staff from entering animal enclosures. But Tyler had occasionally bent these rules when his father was away on business trips. His familiarity with the animals and his desire to demonstrate his expertise to Jessica led him to plan a more dramatic demonstration than the standard tour from outside the fence lines. Tyler's access to the restricted areas had been made possible by his knowledge of the facility's security weaknesses and his father's trust in giving him emergency access codes. During previous visits, Tyler had observed staff members entering their access codes and had memorized the combination for Simba's enclosure gate. African lions are apex predators weighing up to 420 pounds, with males possessing incredible strength and lightning-fast reflexes that make them capable of taking down prey much larger than themselves. These social cats live in complex hierarchical structures and are highly territorial, particularly males who must constantly defend their position through displays of dominance and aggression. Even in captivity, lions retain all their natural hunting instincts and can attack with devastating speed when they perceive threats to their territory or status. Tyler's fatal mistake began when he used the stolen access code to enter Simba's outdoor enclosure during what he believed was the lion's afternoon rest period. The massive male had been lying in the shade of a wooden platform, appearing completely relaxed as he dozed in the warm spring air. Tyler had observed this behavior pattern many times and believed he could safely enter the enclosure for a quick photograph that would demonstrate his unique relationship with the dangerous predator. Jessica watched nervously from outside the fence as Tyler unlocked the enclosure gate and stepped into Simba's territory. The lion's eyes opened immediately, tracking Tyler's movement as the young man slowly approached the resting area. Tyler spoke softly to Simba, using the same tone he had employed during feeding times, believing his familiar voice would keep the lion calm during this unprecedented intrusion. Simba's response was swift and decisive, as his territorial instincts overrode any familiarity with Tyler's presence. The 380-pound lion rose to his feet with fluid grace, his massive muscles rippling beneath his golden coat as he assessed the human who had dared to enter his domain. Tyler realized his mistake immediately, but found himself trapped between the lion and the enclosure fence, with no clear escape route available. The lion's charge covered the 15 feet between them in less than 2 seconds, his powerful frame moving with the explosive speed that made African lions successful hunters on the savanna. Simba's massive paws struck Tyler's chest and shoulders, driving him backward to the ground while razor-sharp claws punctured through clothing and flesh. The lion's powerful jaws clamped down on Tyler's neck, applying crushing pressure that compressed vital blood vessels and airways. The attack lasted approximately 25 seconds, as Simba's territorial instincts drove him to eliminate the perceived threat. Tyler's struggles gradually weakened, as blood loss and oxygen deprivation overwhelmed his system, and the lion maintained his crushing grip until Tyler's movement ceased completely. Once satisfied that the threat was neutralized, Simba released his hold and retreated to the far side of the enclosure. Jessica's screams for help had alerted facility staff, who arrived at the enclosure to find Tyler's lifeless body and Simba pacing at a distance. The lion was successfully sedated with a tranquilizer dart several minutes later, allowing staff to safely recover Tyler's body from the enclosure. The investigation revealed that Tyler had violated multiple safety protocols by using unauthorized access codes to enter the enclosure without permission or backup personnel present. State wildlife officials conducted a comprehensive review of the facility's security measures and animal management practices. The facility implemented additional security measures to prevent similar incidents, including dual-lock gates and enhanced surveillance systems. Tyler's death sparked renewed debates about private exotic animal ownership and the adequacy of safety protocols at such facilities. His family established a foundation promoting big cat conservation and public education about the dangers of keeping wild animals in captivity. But captive predators weren't the only animals that could prove deadly when humans underestimated their protective instincts. In the dense forests of East Texas, a construction worker's excitement about a rare wildlife encounter would put him directly in the path of one of North America's most protective mothers. It was November 3, 2013, and the dense canopy of East Texas piney woods filtered the late afternoon sunlight as Carlos Mendoza worked alone on a remote section of natural gas pipeline. The 39-year-old construction worker had been employed by the pipeline company for 12 years, during which time he had worked in some of the most remote wilderness areas across the southern United States. Carlos was an experienced outdoorsman and hunter who prided himself on his knowledge of local wildlife and his ability to work safely in isolated environments. Carlos had grown up in rural East Texas, where hunting and fishing were integral parts of family life. His extensive experience in the woods had taught him to recognize animal tracks, scat, and other signs of wildlife activity. However, he had never encountered a black bear in East Texas, as the species had been completely absent from the region for over 50 years before a few scattered individuals began returning during the early 2000s as part of a gradual range expansion from Arkansas and Louisiana. The pipeline project required Carlos to clear vegetation and install monitoring equipment in areas that had been undisturbed for decades. His work that day had taken him deep into the Angelina National Forest, where recent wildlife surveys had documented only 3 confirmed black bear sightings over the past 5 years. Carlos had been focused on his pipeline maintenance work when he accidentally stumbled upon fresh bear tracks in the soft soil near a creek crossing. The discovery filled him with excitement about this rare wildlife encounter, as the tracks appeared to be from a large adult bear with clear claw marks indicating the animal had passed through the area recently. His curiosity about this unusual find led him to examine the tracks more closely and consider following them briefly. American black bears are highly intelligent omnivores that can weigh up to 600 pounds, with females being particularly aggressive when protecting cubs. These powerful animals possess incredible strength and can run up to 30 miles per hour through dense forest terrain. Mother bears with cubs are among the most dangerous animals in North America, as their protective instincts override all other considerations when they perceive threats to their offspring. Carlos's curiosity about the rare bear sign led him to follow the tracks for a short distance through increasingly dense underbrush toward a thicket of young pine trees. His excitement about potentially documenting one of East Texas's few black bears overrode his usual caution about approaching dangerous wildlife. Carlos could hear occasional rustling sounds ahead of him, suggesting that the animal might still be in the immediate area. Carlos spotted the large black bear approximately 30 feet away, partially concealed by dense vegetation, as she foraged for acorns beneath a cluster of oak trees. The massive female appeared completely focused on feeding, methodically searching through fallen leaves while occasionally standing on her hind legs to shake branches. Carlos believed this was an incredible opportunity to capture photographic evidence of this rare wildlife encounter. The fatal mistake came when Carlos failed to notice the 2 small cubs playing in the underbrush, just beyond their mother's position. The cubs had been hidden by the dense vegetation, and their quiet play had been masked by the sounds of their mother's foraging activities. Carlos's approach to within photographing distance placed him directly between the protective mother and her vulnerable offspring. The mother bear's reaction was immediate and explosive when she detected Carlos's presence near her cubs. The 400-pound female charged through the underbrush with devastating speed, her maternal instincts driving her to eliminate any perceived threat to her babies. Carlos attempted to retreat, but became entangled in the dense vegetation that had concealed his approach, leaving him unable to escape the charging bear. The bear's powerful paws struck Carlos with tremendous force, driving him backward over a fallen log where his head struck a large rock with devastating impact. The mother bear delivered multiple violent swipes to Carlos's torso and limbs, her claws opening deep gashes while the severe head trauma from his fall caused immediate cervical injury. The defensive attack lasted approximately 10 seconds as the bear used her full strength to neutralize the perceived threat to her cubs. Carlos's body went limp as the combination of head trauma, internal injuries, and blood loss quickly overwhelmed his system. The mother bear disengaged immediately once Carlos stopped moving, her protective instincts satisfied that the threat had been eliminated. She quickly retreated to gather her cubs and move them to a safer location deeper in the forest. Carlos Carlos's co-workers discovered his body the following day when he failed to respond to radio check-ins and didn't return to the equipment staging area. The investigation revealed clear evidence of a bear attack, with tracks and other signs indicating a mother bear defending cubs. Wildlife officials made no attempt to track or destroy the responsible bear, as she had been protecting her young from human intrusion in their natural habitat. The incident prompted enhanced safety protocols for workers in areas with potential bear activity, including mandatory bear awareness training and requirements for working in pairs when possible. Carlos's death became a tragic reminder that wildlife populations are slowly recovering in many areas where they had been absent for decades, requiring renewed awareness and respect for these powerful animals. Thanks for watching. Click the next video for more stories.